Okay, so in this lesson, we're going to talk about how we prove lines are parallel. So this will be using some of the converses. Okay, so we already know that if we have two lines that they're parallel, then we know things like corresponding angles like 1 and 5 would be congruent. So we already know that. We also know other things like alternate interior angles are congruent, alternate exterior angles are congruent, and same side interior angles are supplementary. So those are things that we already know, right? So if two lines are parallel, right, then all of these statements right here are true. That's given that these are parallel. Okay, so what we're going to do today is really go the other way. So we're going to say, all right, if two lines are parallel, then all those angle statements are true. So today what we're going to look at is the converse of that. Really what we're going to say is, if I know that a couple of angle pairs are congruent or supplementary depending on the situation, then I can say that the two lines are parallel. So this is the converse of what we did the other day. So this is really what we're focusing on. If these angle pair statements are true, then we know that the two lines are parallel. So that's really what we're looking at. So for example, let's just look at this here. If angle 1 and 5 are congruent, then L is parallel to M. Okay, so 1 and 5 are right here. So if those are congruent, then that means that these two lines, L and M, have to be parallel. That's the only way that 1 and 5 can be congruent. So we call this the converse of corresponding angles, because 1 and 5 are corresponding angles. So just the reverse of what we already know, but this is a way to prove that lines are parallel. Okay, so let's look at alternate interior angles. So if we look over here at this picture in the upper right, alternate interior angles would be like 3 and 5. So if 3 and 5 are congruent, so if 3 is congruent to angle 5, then I can say L has to be parallel to M. Okay. Let's look at alternate exterior. So that's converse of alternate interior angles. Let's look at converse of alternate exterior. So alternate exterior angles would be like 1 and 7 and 2 and 8. So let's just go 2 and 8. If 2 and 8 are congruent, then L is parallel to M. That's the converse of alternate exterior angles. Okay? And then lastly, the converse of same side interior angles says if like 4 and 5, which are same side interior, if those add up to 180 degrees, then L is parallel to M. So this is just the converse of what we talked about before. Okay, so now we're going to practice this a little bit. Okay, determine if L is parallel to M based on the information given. If yes, state the converse that proves the lines are parallel. Okay, so, are these two lines parallel? Well, if we look at the two that I circled there, 63 and 63, those are both congruent and they're alternate exterior angles. So yes, these are congruent. And say yes by converse of alternate exterior angles. Okay, so 48 plus 132 is 180, but those are same side, they're exterior angles. So this is not sure or no. Potentially they are. These actually end up would be, because you could say this is 48 degrees then, because that's a linear pair, and then these are, but based on just the information that you've given, you'd have to do a little bit more work. We are not going to go down that road. So this one would just be like not sure. You can't go one route, but you could take multiple steps and actually say that those are parallel. So that one's kind of a weird one, but I wanted to show you that weird one just in case it pops up. This next one here, are these parallel? Yes. By converse of corresponding angles. Okay. Okay, so if you go 125, you add that to 65, you get 190. So this would just be no. Those should be, they need to add up to 180, and they don't. This next one would be yes. Those are alternate interior angles. So we'd say yes by converse of alternate interior angles. And then this last one, those are vertical angles. They are congruent to each other, but that doesn't prove that L and M are parallel. So this would just be no. All right. Okay, this one says find the measure of the missing angle so that line U and line V are parallel. Then state the converse used. So if we look at this first one, in order for these to be congruent, this would have to be 103 degrees. 103, there we go. And this would be converse of alternate interior angles. Don't forget the converse part. That's what proves that those lines are parallel. Okay, this next one is 55. We know that these two here would be same side interior angles if U and V were parallel. So in order for them to be parallel, we'd have to say 180 minus 55. So 180 minus 55 gives us 125. So the answer is 125 degrees, and that would be by the converse of same side interior angles. Okay. This would have to be 72 degrees because those would need to be corresponding angles, would have to be congruent. So if that was 72 degrees, we could say that those two lines are parallel by the converse of corresponding angles. Okay. All right, so this time they throw a little bit of algebra in there and they say find the measure of x so that A is parallel to B and then state the converse used. So these you can see are corresponding angles if A and B are parallel. We don't know that yet, but in order for them to be parallel, these would have to, these two would have to be congruent. So let's figure out what that would have to be. So I have 9x plus 11 equals 74. That's a bad 74. In order for them to be congruent, or for those two lines to be parallel, we'd have to get those to be congruent. So subtract. We get 63. Divide by 9, divide by 9. So x would have to equal 7. Okay, so if x equals 7, then A is parallel to B by converse of corresponding angles. Okay. All right, let's do one more. Okay, so these two, this angle and this angle are on the same side, they're interior. So that means in order for those to be parallel, they'd have to be supplementary. They'd have to add to be 180. Okay, so now I'm just gonna do a little bit of combining like terms before I start solving. I wanna put these two together. So 96 minus 30 is 66. Okay, then we wanna subtract 66 from both sides. I got 6x equals 114. Okay, so then we want to divide by 6. And if you do that, 114 divided by 6 is 19. Okay, so we can say if x equals 19, then A is parallel to B by converse of same side interior angles. And that is how you prove that two lines are parallel, by using converses. Okay, I hope that makes sense. Your assignment is the Proving Lines Parallel worksheet. Have a good one. See ya.